Welcome to this episode of Athletic Training Chat. On this episode, we had the opportunity to be part of the Industrial Athletic Training Society's virtual networking summit and got to talk to some of the board members, and we really focused on professional membership and the service that comes with that and the importance of it and what the Industrial Athletic Training Society is doing to help ensure that they are keeping people engaged, making it useful and really beneficial and value to the members. And so we really get into some of that and just what they've seen, what's worked, what hasn't, what they have plans for the future up to a certain degree. They didn't want to divulge too much information about that, so a little bit of a cliffhanger, but it was great to talk to them, a wealth of knowledge, some great insight, and we really hope you enjoy this episode. They do great work, great events, so if you are in the industrial setting or even considering getting into the industrial setting, I highly recommend you check them out so you can get a better idea of what they have to offer and really set yourself up for success if you move into that setting. As always, we are powered by Mueller Sports Medicine. Can't thank them enough for supporting the profession and supporting us. But without further ado, please enjoy this episode.
Thank you, everybody, for signing into this portion of it all. From what I've heard from everybody before we got on the call, it's been a good day so far. Lots of really good information. My name is Joel Lutke. I'm one of the hosts of Athletic Training Chat podcast. Was fortunate enough to be a part of this last year, and apparently did a good enough job to be back this year in some form or fashion. So I appreciate that. And we really are focusing on professional organizations, the volunteer that goes into it. Obviously, that fits with what you all have been a part of today and how this has started. I've talked to Susan about this idea of stretching back a couple of years as she was showing me what she had come up with, and just loved the process of it all and the thought that went into it. So we're going to talk about that. But before we get into any of those questions, I just wanted to go around for our panel for this and have them reintroduce themselves if you haven't caught them already today, and just give a brief background on what their role is in the Industrial Athletic Training Society, and also just what they do in general. So Susan, I'll start with you.
All right. So if you have been here today, hopefully you've encountered me in some way. If you haven't, I do apologize. And I didn't have as much time to introduce myself to everyone as I wanted, but my name is Susan. I am the president and part of our founding core of the Industrial Athletic Trainers Society. And so we're so happy to have you guys here today. Shelby, you want to take it?
Sure. So my name's Shelby. I was able to moderate a couple great presentations today. I'd say the three I moderated were my top three favorites. They were great. I learned something in each of them. I am the secretary for the Industrial Athletic Trainer Society, and I'm part of the founding group of us.
Kaz?
That's me. Hi, I'm Kez Cook, and I am the chair of the Education and Professional Development Committee for IATS. And while I'm not one of the 3 to 4 people who started IATS, they did pull us on at the beginning, and so I'm one of the founders. In my day job, I am a safety coordinator for a local wholesale trade company serving 9 divisions across the country. I love it. Did not see a jump to safety coming for me, but it's been a solid place to land, and I like it a lot. I miss the shop floor. I miss the plants. I miss the people, but safety's fun too.
And finally, Jessica.
Hi, I'm Jessica. I was a moderator for several of the speakers today. Like Shelby said, they were great topics. I learned a lot from both of them. I run the social media for the Industrial Athletic Training Society. So if you message the pages, a lot of times it's either me or Susan responding to you, mainly Susan, whenever I, get a little overwhelmed with things. But volunteering has been great. I enjoy the community that we have together and how much friendship I have and people to relate to in the industrial setting.
Fantastic. So first one, we're going to jump right in. Talking about professional membership. Every November, December, it becomes a fairly hot topic, especially on the social medias, about everybody's take on, especially our national organization. Numbers have decreased. For me personally, I'm in the state of Wisconsin, and our state association is going through this and trying to figure out what we can do to help with that, and there's always conversation about that. How has the Industrial Athletic Training Society used this as a point of focus over the last year and just kind of in general? And Susan, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I think that we've gone more the direction of filling a need more than, kind of giving people another thing to do, which I think is why even with our size, we've been pretty mighty when it's come to the work that we've done and the connections we've built already. I think that we really focused on that kind of if you build it, they will come mentality more than selling to the people and then trying to create something worthwhile. And I think that's been a different approach than some of the legacy organizations have taken. Honestly, we're at a point in time where people are, especially in our profession, they are burnt out, they're tired, we're overworked. We're all busy, more than ever. There are a million things to do. There are a million places to put your time. And so we really recognize that, especially when it comes to professional involvement, you have to earn people's time and you have to work really, really hard to earn it. And when you do earn it, you have to give them a good relationship or a good experience. So a big thing for us in VNS is making sure you're giving us your time. What are we giving you in return? And you should feel like that exchange was so very valuable for you. And I think sometimes in professional involvement, organizations see it as you're giving to us and we are giving you the right to give us your time and your labor and your effort. And we don't even see it that way on the involvement level. We think that when you're giving us your time and your energy and you're a member here and you're, in our ranks, we still owe you something. We still owe you a lot. And we owe you for putting together something incredible like this. Kez and Jessica, I mean, everyone's worked around the clock, and Kez especially getting our speakers lined out. If we don't make that a validating experience for her, where she feels like that was worth it and she got something out of it, it's not going to happen again, right? You can't expect that person to come back around again and go through that again. Because I don't know about her, but I have a headache. I've been cross-eyed for like the first couple hours of the day. We've all just gone through a lot. And so we have to be able to sit back after and go, okay, I would go through that again. It wasn't fun, but I would do it again. So I think that's the approach we've taken.
Go ahead, Kez. I'll come to you on the next one as well. So, but I want to hear your input here.
Well, I would also say that other places are seeing a decrease, whereas we're new, and that gives us an opportunity to fill a gap. We're new because we're filling a gap. And so we're growing, and we're just going to continue to grow. And that is our focus, is to fill a gap, because none of us would be here doing this if there was already somewhere else for us to be.
Very, very important point. Shelby, I wanted to come to you with this one, and then has your take, especially from the education side and everything that's gone on today. But what have you implemented to help engage membership ultimately, bringing people in, but not just that, retaining them. And so Shelby, we'll start with you, and then Kez, definitely from the educational side.
Yeah. So, we're focusing heavily, and Jessica and Susan can attest to this, on our social media, getting our message out. We can't give out any information if nobody knows about us. We are new. We just opened our membership at the beginning of the month, so we're pushing it out, telling people about the resources that we have. We are making sure that our members are able to get the support and the community and the resources that they need. There's a huge business for athletic trainers in the workplace now, whether it's construction sites, manufacturing, food distribution, beverage, you name it, we're there. But we don't have the resources to, adequately support employees, especially if we're new and we don't know what we're doing. So, we're making sure we have those resources, people that, I can reach out to if I have a question. Specific CEUs. We had our first CEU event a month ago. OSHA first aid, huge. It's something we use every day, but unless you have somebody in your company that knows what they're doing, or, you have a mentor, most people don't know how to adequately use OSHA first aid, and it's a huge tool for us. So, we're just making sure that we're getting our message out, and we're providing the resources and the support that, industrial athletic trainers need.
Because from the educational side, with everything put together, this just how have you focused on that in terms of engaging membership in this year's event?
As far as engagement, there's so many opportunities to chip in, right? And I know that for me, there were a lot of times in this process where I was like, someone would offer to help, right? Whether it was in our education committee thread or in our VNS thread, and they're like, hey, I'm available to help. And my answer every time was, if I knew what to offload, what to take out of my brain and give you, I would have already done it. And then within 2 days, that person, whoever they were, got a 2-block message from me saying, this is what I need help with. Can you do it? So I think that learning how to divide up tasks and release them is how we engage our people, right? We have I would say a pretty small core group right now, 13 to 15. And it's 13 to 15 who got together to put VNS on this year. And they did it with a smaller group last year, which blows my mind. But we have 13 people engaged, and so many different cogs coming together to do this. And the biggest thing for implementing engagement for our membership is letting pieces go and trusting that someone is going to do it, right? I don't know about you, but that's hard. But it was so worthwhile, right? I think Shelby, at the beginning of this a while ago, messaged me individually, was like, hey, Kez, let's check in. And how can I help? I don't know, Shelby. But her message, and Chris Proctor, same thing. Kez, what do we need to do? And don't be afraid to ask for help. Every time our exec officers checked in with us, it was, don't be afraid to ask for help. And as long as that was the overarching theme, then letting go and figuring out, okay, it is okay to let go. It is okay to ask for help. And let's do it. That's opportunities for engagement, for people to take off bites and do what they can do, right? They couldn't do the whole thing. I couldn't do the whole thing. But letting others take a chunk and own it and do what they can do, that's it.
So I got to add a little bit to this, because it's really funny to hear that from my perspective, because I think a lot of the success of any group, any project, any program is going to be your leadership, right? And I always like to be funny, president comes with a kind of weight to it, where to me it just means you're like head doofus in charge, right? Like you're number one to blame when things go on. That's what I tell people. I'm the person to point fingers at if you're not having a good
We're
experience.
using head doofus from now on. It is no
I'm good with
longer president.
Head
It
doofus,
can roll
right?
uphill from time to time. The stuff, it can definitely roll uphill.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think a big part is making sure it does, right? So I believe that people will perform to the level at which you let them and expect them. So I like to have really high expectations of our leadership. And the reason being, if you have low expectations, that's what you're going to get. And we can't have low expectations at IATS. We're too small. Our work is too important. Our work is too important to have low expectations for each other. So we have really high ones. And a lot of the time we meet those high expectations. Now, there will occasionally be frustrations. There are definitely times I'm looking, I'm peering, in the files and in the stuff. And we have our exec group meeting, me, Christian, and I'll go, hey, can one of you guys reach out to that committee, see what's going on, see if they need anything, see if they need support. And it'll always be from that perspective, because to me, if we're not performing, it just means that we needed support that we didn't have. Doesn't mean that we're not capable. We needed more. And so I'm really adamant at saying, hey, do you guys need funding, right? Do we need people? Do we need ideas? Do you need someone to bounce thoughts off of? What is it that we need so that we can get going? And you continuously have that message. And I think it's absolutely incredible what people are capable of. I know the core group that Kez is talking about, we hit a point at the VNS planning stage where I said, everyone meeting, team meeting. And I know everyone remembers that day because we all got on. I said, I want every single person, you better have a good excuse to not be on this call. And, I said, hey, this is what we got going on. This is what things are looking like. This is where we want it to be. This is where we are. We're all capable of getting where we want it to be. What do we need to get there? What are we missing? What do we need done by the next week when we have this call again and everyone will be on it? What needs to be done? And that really got us right back to where, if that didn't happen, we would have cascaded into something that really would have not been pretty to watch. So that's really the job of, I think, any of our leadership. And these individuals are heads of committees themselves, and that's what they're going to be doing with their teams as they grow. But you really just have to have a way to say, we're capable of being where we're supposed to be. What are we missing? Because it's not one person to blame. It's not one particular thing. It's just the general system of support. And I will say this year really showed me, the sky's the limit. We can do absolutely anything. And we have an incredible crew. And we're really excited for the people who will be joining this crew coming this year. So it's funny to hear Kez saying that the executive committee would check on, what do you need? Because that's good. That is exactly what we're here to do, is support everyone to reach their highest potential. And you get things like this out of that, because ask anyone on this call how the continuing ed looked this year and the speaker roster. It was incredible, mind-blowingly awesome. So, yeah.
And to kind of piggyback off what Susan said, you have expectations and you let people navigate in their own way and their strengths, but also we're all human and we all are working full-time jobs. And sometimes Susan's like, hey, do you just need me to do this for you so you can take a nap today? So it's about understanding people and what they need, and, filling their void in their life, as well as allowing them to be a volunteer as well.
So quick follow-up for Susan on this one, but then Jessica, I'm definitely coming to you with the next one. As your role as president, and just everything you talked about, and this is me just out of my own personal curiosity, but I think other people will take it as well, is how do you avoid micromanaging yet still ensuring that all of these things are getting done? Because that can be extremely hard, because a lot of things come up, and I know this from my own personal, is yes, you could just get it done yourself, but also trying to empower people and find out how they can get it done.
Kez just eagerly looking like, is there an answer? Because how does Susan avoid micromanaging? She doesn't. I'm kidding. No, I would say, because I do avoid micromanaging. I mean, I hope that's what comes off. I still make sure generic things are coming, are known, and that's how I avoid micromanaging. So when I'm looking at something that needs to happen, and what I really try to give the team I always start as broad as I can, right? And then if we need more direction, I'll trickle in, I'll sprinkle in a little bit more. It's about being light-handed, not heavy-handed, right? But I'll say, okay, well, this by this date. Okay, here are the things we need to get this thing done by this date. Maybe let's just tab in and add some to-dos underneath that. But I think the main thing for me is, I think Heath kind of talked about it in the chat. You really got to be willing to let some things go. So if I'm passing a task off to someone, if it's something I need done just so to the letter, well, then I'm telling me that I'm doing it myself, is what I'm telling myself at that point. So I have to determine if I'm giving this to someone, there is a critical path, right? And I talk with the team about our critical path all the time, because if we pull in too many extras, then we're spread too thin and we can't be productive. So you have a critical path, you have what it needs to happen, what is crucial, vital details. There are often very few of them, right? Like the critical ones for VNS was that it happened on this date and it happened at this time. And really at that point, things could have been anything. It was quite up in the air for what it would actually look like at that point. So once you have those vital few things, you have to be very, very flexible with what happens from there. And I think a big point is to determine when you're holding too tight to certain goals, right? So I know we had a big goal for our CEUs this year. Considering we had 0 last year, our goal was 6. And at one point we were working really, really hard to make sure, because not all of our speakers are CEU speakers, right? Half of them weren't. But we were working really hard to meet this goal. And I could see that morale was starting to drop off on the team because we were short by maybe 1 or 2, and we really started getting a little exasperated. And so I said, guys, our lineup is incredible. It's amazing. We've done a fantastic job this year. We are so far ahead of where we were last year that whether we make this or not, we've done an incredible job across the board. And I think that little bit was enough to alleviate some of the pressure that we were really feeling. And then Kes made 6 CEUs happen anyway. So good things happen when you let go. And she really
made 6 CEUs happen. Let's be real there. That's the rest of our team stepping up.
Yes, Claire, sure. Where is she? I saw her laughing here a second ago, stepped up. And so
Claire,
again,
Jessica Herrera, Nikki Harris.
Yeah. So you have to know what matters, make the main thing, keep the main thing, right? And everything else is optional. Yeah.
Appreciate your insight there, as always. Next one, Jessica, coming to you. And this is also because it's been shouted out in the chat already, but the social media around the Industrial Athletic Training Society, the importance of communication, connecting with current members, people that you want to be members, just in general, as Shelby had mentioned, getting the word out, approaches that you've taken, styles that you've gone with that you found to be most effective. And honestly, I'll probably have a follow-up episode with you at some point so I can just pick your brain for our own personal one here. But what have you kind of put into that whole plan?
Well, I took over social media in I think August 1st, and we have pretty much tripled our numbers, our social media following since then. And really it was just about having a presence online. So we would it might be National Yoga Day, and we would make a post about that just to get engagement, just to get our numbers up, just so that we popped up on a search bar. So a lot of it was creating filler content just so we had something until we started having events and rolling out membership. So really our main focus in the beginning was, how do we get followers so that when we want to promote a big event like VNS or roll out our membership, what are we doing to make sure we have followers so that our content is shared? So there were a bunch of corny posts in the beginning just because we needed something to put there. But like I said, our social media following's grown since then. And now that we have our committees and we're a VOC provider and we offer CEUs, we have events to promote now. So our branding is kind of changing over just a little bit, but we still have certain, holidays and events that special days that we want to highlight going forward. But really, it was just about creating a brand so that we were recognizable, so that we had a following for when we wanted to promote things.
I appreciate that. And again, kudos on it as you're getting in the chat as well. But
I could not do it without Susan. Let's be honest. I could not do it without her.
No, Jessica absolutely has crushed the social media. It's been amazing. Our numbers have just gone up, like, that little like stock graph emoji or whatever. So that, I mean, half of me and Jessica's conversations are not even about social media. That part just happened. So that's also been a great friendship that we've fostered there, and it's been awesome.
Definitely.
This one, I would love everybody's insight on it. Being involved in this for, the service, professional involvement, however you want to call it. Give me a positive and a negative that you've experienced with it. And maybe if you want to throw in there as well, just advice or something you would give to somebody who's looking to get involved. Shelby, I'll start with you.
It's a really good question.
Every once in a while.
Yeah.
Every once in a while.
I guess, if somebody's looking to get involved, if they're willing to put in the time, and honestly, if they're flexible, I would say, have the time to commit to this, because, we all work full-time jobs outside of this, but sometimes this can be a full-time job as well, and we're just volunteering. We don't get paid for this. We're just doing this to help, support other industrial athletic trainers, so have that time, have that mentality, and just be flexible, because we're all virtual. But I can't tell you how many times I'm like, all right, guys, I'm getting off a meeting because it's now past my bedtime, because everybody else is in like central time, and I go to bed, with my 2-year-old. So I'm like, all right, it's, the sun has set, I'm going to bed. So having that flexibility, I think, is huge, as well.
Susan?
Okay. I would say a positive is that you're creating a legacy for people behind you. So, ideally you're making something that people later are going to benefit from. And I think this goes for all the organizations, even when we're looking at, regardless of, how organizations change, you think about the people who built organizations like NATA and PFATS and the ASSP and a lot of these organizations. I can only imagine the work and the time and a lot of hospital imagine, but the work and the time and the hours that go into creating something that will change people's lives. So that's definitely a positive. A negative, it's hard to find one. It's really hard to say, because everything else is just the lumps that come with it. I really can't even think of one, because if you start seeing things as negatives and not just an opportunity to overcome something, I think professional involvement can become debilitating, right? It can become something that you see as a drag. And it's not. It's something that we truly choose to do. And I can't think of anything that I would say is just an outright negative, but it's not me saying that there's no negatives. So if someone's thinking of getting involved, I would say communication. You got to be a great communicator. I don't care if your news is good or bad. Just tell it to me. Being radio silent for weeks, months, that is the easiest way to frustrate everybody else who's putting work in. So even if you're saying, hey guys, I'm on vacation the next 2 weeks, I'll check in when I get back, bingo, cool. Even if it's just saying, hey, I'm going to miss this meeting tomorrow, here are my notes, here's what I thought. Or saying, hey, I don't really understand this, can I have a little bit more time with this document and we can review it in a week or two? That is so much better than saying nothing until the day of the meeting of whatever is going on. People can't take action because of a lack of communication. So I think communication is definitely something that can make or break a professional group.
Guys, we'll go to you.
Would you repeat the question?
Just a positive and negative about, being involved in professional service, and then any recommendation you'd give to someone who's looking to get involved at any level.
Okay, cool. I missed the second half. I'm sorry. So I would say a negative would be, we got to remember that we're human, and when you're signing up for something and they give you a hours estimation per month, that's going to fluctuate or not even be close to the estimate, which is fine. But it's also really true, right? And every professional organization I've been a part of, that is true. That is not specific only to IATS or whatever. And when you're getting involved in a volunteer organization, you got to remember that things are estimates, and sometimes they're averages. Sometimes you're going to do something for 10 minutes in a month, right? And then the next 2 months, you're going to put in 15 hours because that's what the requirement is, because of how it fluctuates or the ebbs and flows, right? So I'm not sure that's so much of a negative as just like a be aware. And a positive would be, especially with this group, I immensely enjoy the relationships that you get out of, or like volunteering and being a part of a group, and it's shared experiences. And so you understand, well, and then, oh, hey, I had this come up. What would you say? Like, help me work through this. Being a part of a professional organization where you can bounce these ideas off is huge, has absolutely been huge the last year and change. Absolutely. Positive, negative, and advice to someone who is going into volunteering for a professional organization: be flexible and know when to ask for help. And as you're asking for help, start divvying up your task. Every project is just like 100 million tasks dressed up in a trench coat with a baseball bat waiting for you around the corner, right? So know how to undo that trench coat and divvy up those tasks. So when someone says, hey, I'm free till Wednesday if you need help, you can be like, okay, here's 3 things I can offload. And so my advice would be flexible and ask for help when you need it.
And Jessica.
So I think my positive and negative is kind of the same. I know that a lot of people, they take on a volunteer role and a commitment not knowing what all it entails. Because I jumped in and didn't know what I got myself into. So, being with a group that's honest and upfront about things is very, very important when it comes to volunteering. But also, if you want to be a part of something, understand that these people, this group of people that you're working with, they rely on your level of commitment to fulfill your duties, to do what you say you're going to do. So when you're not committing and you're not fulfilling your commitment, everyone else is having to pick up your slack. So just make sure when you're entering into a team setting that you understand the success of the team relies on you fulfilling your commitment, in whatever capacity it may be. You may just be the person checking the email every day, but people need response to their emails. So every role is important. So just understanding your level of commitment and your dedication before you sign up to something. But with that said, my advice is don't be afraid to say yes to something. Susan and I had a conversation the other day about, when people take jobs, you don't know 100% of the job that you take. You may know 20, 30%, and within a year, you're 80, 90% efficient in that job. You understand the full job task. So don't be afraid to say yes to opportunities. Even if you are afraid, hey, I want to take on a role, but I only have 1 hour a week I can dedicate to that. Well, we can use that 1 hour. We can designate tasks to you so that you can use that hour efficiently. So don't be discouraged, but know your limitations and be upfront and honest about them, because the success of the organization does rely on your commitment.
Awesome. Thank you all for sharing. So before we go into any questions from those who are attending, please submit those via the chat, and we'll kind of get through as many as we can. We're going to do a couple modified athletic training chat questions that we tend to ask everybody. So first one, and this will be for all of you, they're not meant to be rapid fire, but do with you as you will. First one is if you could change anything within the athletic training profession, could be a mindset, a specific tool, anything around those lines. And you can make this obviously specific to the industrial setting if you'd like. Go with the theme. What would it be? Susan, you look deep in thought, so we'll go to you first.
Why would you go with me when I'm clearly still thinking?
Put you on the spot.
If I could change anything, have I answered? How many times on the chat do you have before you don't have to answer the questions because you've used up all of your unique responses?
I feel like we've hit enough topics with you. You could get one for each one.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, if I could change anything, yes, I think it would be broadening mentorship in the profession. I think it naturally happens in some settings, but it's a little less natural in the industrial setting. And so it would be nice to see, some of those pearls get distributed better. Anyone who was on today and learned from some of the speakers who've been in the setting a long time, mind-blowing information. So I'd like to see mentorship grow for sure.
Shelby.
Can I say Susan took my answer? Is that a good response?
Not gonna work. No. Nothing about round tables.
So I think, in the workplace and having spent some time in the traditional setting, constant obstacle that I continue to face is that misinformation that certified athletic trainers are also personal trainers. And they're just like, trainer this. And there are times that I will respond to trainer. I responded the other day because somebody wasn't breathing. Like, there are times you don't have to say, hey, certified athletic trainer, come help me. That's fine. But I'm not a personal trainer. I have my master's. We have different job descriptions and just job duties, right? So I think if we could somehow, and I say somehow, change this, knowing that we are working to change it, and just educate the population of the differences between personal trainer at, Planet Fitness and, an athletic trainer in the workplace. But it's just that's something that I still see. So trying to figure out how to fix that overnight would be really great. So if anybody has any ideas, we're open to it.
Jessica.
Oh, great. I thought Kez was going to go next. I'd get an extra minute to think.
I'm going in order that's appearing on my screen, so sorry.
I think a big part of being an athletic trainer is experiencing burnout. I know a lot of us don't have a community, or, in the traditional setting, you may be the only athletic trainer at your secondary school, or kind of like I am in my industrial position. My boss is kind of hands off. I kind of work in my setting and, get feedback as needed. But I think having a sense of community really helps people stay in the profession longer. If you feel like you're in it alone and every day is a struggle and you have no answers, no support, nobody to kind of bounce ideas off of or to encourage you to grow, I really think a sense of community is important. And so I wish that, there are a lot of Facebook groups that it turns into a complaint session. And I wish there was a way to kind of turn some of that into community support. I think that would really change our profession.
And Kaz?
Man, so if we could change one thing, can I change two? So I would say having alternate settings as a part of the curriculum in school, more than a footnote. And I am serious when I say footnote. It was a like 2 sentences said at the end of class one day. Oh, and you could go into the industrial setting, but there's football practice after a class today, right? And I mean, that's not even an exaggeration. The other thing I would change, because everyone else all took the good ones, right? So don't hate me too much, but I don't like that entry level went to masters. I think that as a profession, we are cutting people out who are brilliant and would be brilliant in our setting. And there's just no reason for that. We're inflating our education system. Our education system is already inflated, but having an entry level BS is the way to go. Having further advanced education, I'm not saying that's not a good thing. Absolutely. And I think it's necessary. And I think that that's how we grow as a profession. But man, it killed me when that passed. So I would change it back to BS.
I definitely would not have a master's of engineering right now if I'd had to do an entry-level master's into AT. So that definitely gave me the room to choose what my specialty was. And if the Industrial Athletic Trainer Society website is dark after today, you guys are going to know. Shut him down.
Sorry, that's just a personal opinion. That's just me. I know a lot of people have masters or above and entry-level masters and above, and that's great. Mm-hmm. And sincerely, that's great. It just sucks to be one of the last bachelor's level, entry level programs because you don't have a master's. Well, but I have the same education, just minus 2 classes. Thank you. Like, I can do the same thing. And for the record, I've been here for 3 years and have more experience than you. And so, yes, I know more than you do, right? It's hard. You're going to get that anywhere and anything. But there's my shots fired, as Chris said.
So we're going to jump to Chris's question in the chat. And then Tracy, I see your hand up. So we'll make sure we'll get over to you afterwards. But Chris asks, seeing any improvement in recognition or compensation for traditional ATs due to the strides that are being made in the industrial and other emerging settings. For my own personal anecdote, yes, I've seen that. I've seen jobs that are been posted in areas that will immediately get people to reconsider, and then all of a sudden they get the raise that they probably should have gotten anyway. So I've seen it in my small little world, but open up to the rest of the board if you've seen specific examples of that.
Yeah, so I work closely. The company I work for also employs athletic trainers in the high school. And I work very closely with our person that oversees that. And she's like, imagine if when we came out of school, we were getting paid $75,000 to work 10 months out of the year. No, it took years. So we are seeing that. And honestly, I'm in Connecticut. And it's always, well, Amazon's paying this. So thank you, Amazon, for helping us kind of push that up. So we are seeing, because of Amazon here, across the board, athletic trainers are making more money. And I think that that's, the first step in making, the traditional setting more appealing to athletic trainers. Not that I'm trying to. But, they get a better work-life balance. They're making more money, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Anybody else before we get to Tracy? this question?
I'm not too familiar with the things that are happening in the traditional setting, unfortunately. So I don't want I don't want to gauge too. But industrial setting salaries have gone up considerably ever since I started. So that's great to see too.
I will say that every industrial setting job in my area pays significantly more than the full-time traditional setting jobs. The PRN traditional setting, like you can't beat that money, but the full-time industrials definitely makes more.
Well, and even the PRN industrial, I mean, I have PRN available on my projects, and I have traditional ATs who take our hours, and most of them take them because we're the highest paying PRN in San Antonio. So do with that what you will, but yeah.
All right, Tracy, can you actually unmute?
I think so. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay.
I haven't used Google enough.
Fantastic. Well, apologize. I'm out of breath. I'm working out, getting a walk in while I take this call. So I wanted to go back to Kez. First, phenomenal answers from all of you. Thank you so much. Kez, your statement on the master's level program. So as a director, I'm tasked with hiring new individuals. And one of the things that I see as a problem is the new grads come out. Yes, they have the information, they have the skill set, but their lack of confidence is very difficult for me to hire. So currently right now, if you're a new grad and you come to my organization and you're looking to get hired, you better blow me out of the water or it's not happening, because you just don't have that confidence that I need you to have to be successful in the industrial and the public safety setting. Can you provide any insight or additional thoughts on that? Maybe I'm looking at it from the wrong point of view.
Ooh, that's a good, and like, I know Claire's kind of given the group disclaimer of, we actually do have split opinions on entry level, even within IATS, but I think that this is something we're seeing across the board, even outside of the AT profession, right? Is a lot of, especially when you require people to go through bachelor's and master's education to arrive at their entry level job, is in a profession like athletic training, to your point, Tracy, where you have to be a self-starter. You have to, there's almost a degree of being able to put the pieces together and arrive at the right answer by yourself. Like you're picking, what equation you're using, that with master's degree graduates, even outside of AT, there's a lot of difficulty there translating those skills into actionable, concise, competent, confident workers. And I think that's a big place where mentorship comes in, clinicals come in, experience comes in. I think the master's students are just going to have to get a lot of extra experience on the side so that they can grow, having the knowledge of, oh yeah, I've been there and I've seen this. There's no replacement. And I know I've said this before, but there's no replacement for experiencing some things. Some things you just learn by having been there. We had the happy hour chat last night and people were sending absolutely horrid images of certain injuries. The chat got very, very scary. But we saw some things that there's honestly no replacement for the experience of having managed a case like that, having seen a case like that. And a lot of ATs, even in other AT groups I'm in, are like, hey, have you guys, rehabbed someone back from this? Have you guys dealt with this? Because they haven't experienced it. You can't have someone who needs to have that conversation every other time that they're getting something, that a situation arises. And I think that's something employers are dealing with.
I would kind of throw that back at you too, Tracy, as to specify, is it you're seeing a lack of confidence in master's entry level, or you've always seen a lack of confidence between BS and master's, right?
Masters, definitely.
And so not so much with the BS when BS was entry?
Correct. I have not seen since the transition is where we're struggling the most, right? And if you think about if you, like, seriously, you think about the industrial setting, we do public safety as well. It's essentially leveled the playing field for anyone coming into the profession, since all of us didn't get any real good knowledge, as you pointed out. And I agree wholeheartedly to that, to the college thing. It's now leveled it. So when I see someone come in and they're a new grad, one, they don't know the profession, and they're not confident, being assertive and professional and being a good leader. But you need to do that because you need to have those tough conversations. You're on your own, talking to grown men and grown women. That's different than when you talk to high school or college kids, right? And so,
Yeah.
how do we fix that?
Well, I have two thoughts on that. The first is I wonder if it's because we had so much shadow time as undergrads, right? We had our freshman and sophomore year where we were shadowing ATEP programs, and then we had our junior and senior year where we were in the program. And I wonder if that has a difference on that, because part of that, I would imagine, is confidence in my skills to diagnose, treat, rehab, whatever it is. And then the other half of that is I wonder if we're just getting babies, right? And we don't know how to work autonomously. And I wonder, and I missed Jack's session today, but something like what Jack pointed out or presented on today, which was working autonomously and having that confidence to work autonomously. Because I don't know, I was very fortunate in each setting that I've been, in each position that I've been in, that I had a mentor walking beside me for my first 6 weeks, making there's a difference between making a warm introduction and making a cold call, right? And so having that person who's already been here for 6 years being like, hey, this is Kez, she's the new athletic trainer and she's who you're reaching out to for XYZ, is different than, hi, I'm Kez. Well, what do you do? Well, let me tell you about it. Which we do both. One just takes more confidence. I don't know if that answered any of your question, Tracy. I think your question is really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
No, thank you all for considering it and answering it. I appreciate it. I think it's something that those of us that are in those positions are going to have to start really honing in and using resources like your society is going to be.
And
huge.
have you considered, okay, so you're hiring someone, you get someone who's a good fit, but they just don't, they're a new person. And so that's concerning to you because of your experience. Have you considered putting together an employer education plan, right? So you have to go through, so that, that's rough on you. But side note, shameless plug for membership, we are putting together an education plan because we will be the gold standard in industrial education for athletic trainers. And if you go through our education plan, then you are ready to hit the ground floor and have your manager walk you around and introduce you to your stakeholders so you can take it from there.
Well, and I think a big component, and it's actually part of why VNS is modeled the way that it is. I think VNS is a bit of a confusing conference, or if we can even call it that. It really is just a summit. It's an opportunity, right, for people, but it was born out of business skills. A big part of the industrial setting is being able to network, being able to have some of these softer skills. And so I know last year I actually did a talk on burnout that I probably will do next year if I can, but we kind of wanted some pretty powerful CEUs in there that were a little bit more technical, but a lot of our CEUs were in that O&A side of things, how to walk the walk, right? Knowing how to be an entrepreneur on your own, developing your own CEU or program and choosing your education. We had a lot on building your network. So a lot of why we develop VNS, we tell our speakers this is, it's less, how to assess the hand and wrist. You have gone to an athletic training program, okay? There are soft skills that you might be struggling with that are going to be what makes you a key athletic trainer in the industrial setting. And it definitely speaks to what Tracy brought up, which is the confidence and that kind of extra little bit of confidence and information you need to really do well there. And that's why VNS started in the first place, was to give people a place to practice that.
Well, I think just to add a couple more thoughts into this conversation, we can't change the master's programming, good or bad. I'm, indifferent to it. But as, people who are trying to hire safe professionals to put in the workplace, we need to, I think, approach it from two different ways. So like has mentioned, an employee education, an education program, right? So part of their onboarding, this is kind of what we're expecting from you, while you're in the workplace. But that's only going to be so good and effective if they're exposed to this in their athletic training education program. So, getting with like Katie, getting with, your local programs and just saying, hey, listen, can I just come in and talk about this? Or, however we were able to kind of infiltrate that. Because I graduated my undergrad in 2012, and it literally, like I said, leaving class one day, they go, oh, and if you don't want to work, traditional athletics, we do work with like the military. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Like on your way out, hand in your test and we work with the military. So I think having just that exposure and that knowledge, like, hey, we do work with the military. Hey, we do work with public safety. Hey, we do work with construction crews. We do work, in manufacturing. Just having that exposure, I think, is going to go a long way because, athletic trainers are smart. So I think, we don't know what we don't know, but if we're able to expose students, then when we hire them, during their onboarding, we give them the specifics they need to know, then I think we're just setting them up better for success, than hoping that we did our best and that it'll work out.
Well, a couple quick things just before we jump into the last question, kind of round this out, keep it to that hour. And just hearing everybody, I would highly recommend, if you haven't already, if you've got an education program in your area, reach out to them. I know a lot of the ones in Wisconsin are constantly looking for places to send students on immersion rotation, so they're with you for several months, which can be good and bad, but they're there. And they're always looking for things there. To Igor's point, I think that would help. If you knew somebody was coming for an extended period of time, that would be great. Also, if you haven't, try and talk at a state or regional association to highlight it. I gave a talk at our Midwest or GLADA one just recently, not about anything industrial, and had a couple of people ask if I would be willing to at least do like a guest lecture. So they could open up opportunities for you there, so you all could provide back more than what you got in your education in terms of this setting. So I would highly recommend that. And shout out to Tracy because she's done it for us up here in the Midwest. But last question, an AT chat question, slightly modified. Susan, you'll be fine with this one. I know you will. Is just, what does being an AT in the industrial setting mean to you?
Being an AT in the industrial. Oh, am I starting?
Go for it.
Talking.
You're good.
Not the first time that's happened. Okay. Being an AT in the industrial setting, to me, means making a dent in healthcare disparities in our country. Because when we learned in school, we were kind of taught, and this was probably the OG healthcare model, right? 20, 50 years ago. That physicians were the gatekeepers. They helped patients access healthcare, know where to go. I think those of us in the industrial setting very much understand that we're the gatekeepers of these individuals who haven't seen a healthcare provider in 14 years. And we are often the ones who direct them to crucial healthcare when it's time. And we make sure that they are able to maximize not only their health expenses, but getting good outcomes that lead to good health. And to be able to do that for the blue collar population is huge.
Again, going in order, Shelby.
So I think, piggyback off Susan, it's huge. The blue collar workers are commonly forgotten for some reason. So I think being able to support them while they just deal with whatever it is they're dealing with, whether it's a workplace injury, whether, they got hurt at home, they're not able to, they tend to have a harder time navigating the system, and it only gets more complicated when we talk about people in a minority group. I can't tell you how many times I go into a location and, somebody's having a really bad experience with their workers' comp doctor, their physical therapist, whoever it may be. And I'm just like, if you were of a different ethnicity, I don't know if this would be so much of a problem. So obviously that is not something I can fix. I don't know how we fix that. But I think by utilizing us in the workplace and being that, liaison, almost that support for the employee, that's the best we can do right now. And I think as everything evolves, we continue to do it, because at the end of the day, we're working with real people, right? We all go to work for some reason. We have responsibilities, we have whatever the case is. The people we work with are just going to work because they have responsibilities too. So keeping that in mind, they're real people, they're just, I feel like they just have a harder time. So.
Jessica.
So my answer is kind of the same as, Susan and Shelby. These are real people that go to work so they can provide for their family. And for me, with the utilities that I work with, I don't necessarily see a socioeconomic issue with them. A lot of times they're just too stubborn to get medical care. It's not that they don't have access to it. I'm a man. Why do I need to go to the doctor type situation? So yeah, I know. So kind of setting yourself apart and saying, hey, I know a lot of things. Let me take a look at it. Let's do this. If I can't get you better, what if we go get an MRI on your back? So I think it's about not necessarily having all the answers or getting 100% buy-in, but sometimes it's just convincing people that they need to do what's best for them. So sometimes that is my job. But it's a lot of just convincing people they need to take care of themselves.
And Kaz.
So what is my purpose for being in the industrial setting? I put it in my why last night, but it's to help people. And the other ladies have already hit all of the big points, but so I'll tell a story instead and take 20 seconds. It'll be great. And, but my first, probably 6 or 7 months, it was around that 7-8 month mark, of being in the industrial setting, and I was covering another person's shift. And so I was in a building that I'm not normally in. And I was walking around logoed up, right colors, logos. So everyone knew who we were, right? We wore backpacks. We had our logo. It was great. Good old red and black. We were there. And this guy walks up to me and he's like, you work with so-and-so, right? And I was like, sure. My name is Kez. What can I do for you? He's like, I thought so. And he started telling me about his wrist pain. And so I'm thinking, okay, so this is a new injury or a new case for me, and that I'll do the eval and pass it off to my coworker who covers the shift on day shift. And as he got talking, I realized that this is going to be more than just another prevention case, right? I get to refer him to the clinic, and he's going to have to go through the whole carpal tunnel shebang, right? And as we get to talking, he said that I asked him, well, what made you flag me down today? Because if you've already been working with my coworker for 3 months, then what happened today that you're talking to me instead of the person you already have the relationship with, right? We're in a relationship game here. And he said, well, I tried to open a cupcake for my grandson last night and I couldn't do it. That's my why. My why is because I'm helping these people live their best life. I got into this to be the lifeguard of the football field, and I ended up helping people live their best lives. And that's what I do, whether that's navigating work comp claims or helping someone get the treatment and advocate for them so that they can open their grandson's cupcake. That's why I'm in the industrial setting.
I like it. Well, thank you all for attending. Before I turn it over to Susan, just for anything else that she wants to fill in, we would love to help support anybody in the athletic training setting that's in the industrial. So if you'd like to come on the podcast, tell your story, talk about what you want, feel free to reach out to me, atc@athletictrainingchat.com, or just end up on the website. There's a submission form there. We'd love to highlight all the work that all of you are doing. I see a few people on that I've talked to already, but happy to have any and all of you. It's makes me tracking down people much easier if you reach out to me. So thank you again for my opportunity to be here. But Susan, anything else that, or anybody else that wanted to share before everything gets wrapped up? You are muted.
Okay. I just wanted to thank everyone who was at VNS this year. Thank you for making it incredible and amazing again. Looking forward to the next one already. And I just want to invite you guys to reach out to us. I know our early registrants, you guys got like a cool little mailer from us. We love hearing from you guys, and don't feel like you have to be a member. Okay. Of course, our membership is open, and we would love for you to join us. If you want to be a part of what we're doing, and we're really grateful for the members we have and what we're building. But an interesting thing about being an organization is we hear from people who are not our members, people who we might never have heard from ever before. And I know Jessica runs into this sometimes on social media, where we'll get messages from people, whether it's complaining about something or asking for us to do something differently. And I actually love those messages because it gives us another perspective, and we get to hear what you're thinking, and that's valuable information at the end of the day anyway. And we really do take a lot of that stuff to heart. So if you're thinking about anything, don't think you need to be a member to tell us something. We love hearing from everyone. You're all valuable, you all matter, and we love to hear about the things that are bothering you. For our members, this is going to be new to even parts of our board, but we do have our member assembly coming up in May. Please be there. Make a commitment to be there, because that's where we're really going to put you guys in breakout groups, and we're going to talk, and we're going to answer questions. And we as an organization are committed to taking your responses in that and making that part of our strategic plan as an organization. So professional involvement at the end of the day requires people being willing to step out and commune and talk like you've all done here today, and keep this kind of thing going. And when everyone does it, it keeps other people from having to work 15 hours in a month to catch up. Okay. So please reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much, Joel, for hosting us and running this great conversation. IATS will be on a community ordained nap for the most part in April, so you might not be hearing from us as much, but we'll still have our social media going. We're still available to you, so drop a line.
And with that, thank you for listening to this episode of Athletic Training Chat. We look forward to getting on to the next one. There's some great interviews coming up from across the board, so stay tuned for all of those. And if you like the idea of journaling, or have students that you think might like the idea of journaling, check out the Athletic Training